Blog post 70. Date September 29th. Followers 56,594. Yay! Talk about an amazing surprise. Noah's here. He left his place seriously early this morning just so he could spend all day here. How cute is that? And there was me, thinking he was avoiding my messages yesterday. Turns out he was trying to get all his jobs done so he could spend the weekend here and didn't want to ruin the surprise. I hadn't realised how desperate I was to see him until I heard that knock on the front door. He looked shattered. His designer stubble was edging dangerously close to beard territory, and the bags under his eyes had aged him by a decade. Given he has to deal with an eternally youthful girlfriend, the sooner he starts working on a decent skincare routine, the better. "Why didn't you tell me you were coming?" I said, throwing my arms around him the moment he was through the door, then quickly backing away. "Oh, you need a bath." "I didn't tell you because then it wouldn't have been a surprise," he said. "And if I have a bath right now, I'll fall asleep in it." He yawned so widely I heard his jaw click. "And now we have a weekend together to enjoy before you're too busy with all your new friends and essays to see me. Please tell me you don't have any crazily exciting plans for today." "You know that will never happen," I said, moving to kiss him despite the stench. "I don't have anything lined up. Unless you consider spending the entire time in my bedroom a plan." A spark of light came to his eyes. "There is nothing in the world I want more than that." He went to kiss me, but I broke away again with a grimace. "If you can't manage a bath, you'd better have a shower. You'd stink of road trip sweat." And so that's where he is now. And I just wanted to let you know that I'm not going to have time to reply to any comments or anything else today. And yes, I will tell him about Finn. It's all going to be fine, so no need to message me about that, okay? I just need a little bit of us time. Blog post 71. Date September 29th. Followers 56,837. Ah! He did it! He said it! He said the words! Blog post 72. Date September 29th. Followers 57,423. Oh, okay. I know I've started 2 blogs in a row with a scream, but you can't blame me. You know how long I've been waiting for this. Noah loves me. Really loves me. I was starting to think he'd never say it, but he did, and it was perfect. Everything about it was totally perfect. I bet you're wondering how he said it, aren't you? Actually, I don't care if you are or not. I'm going to tell you anyway. As you know, he came in absolutely stinking, and I told him to have a shower, which is when I posted to you guys. So he did. Then he came into the bedroom wrapped in a towel. Now, before you start asking completely inappropriate questions, I might as well answer them preemptively. Yes, I have seen my boyfriend naked before. We may not have had sex yet, but that's about the only thing we haven't done. We still have a very enjoyable time together. While you can interpret that as you wish, I will get on with the far more important romantic bit. I don't mean to sound shallow or anything, and our relationship is definitely not based on purely physical attraction. But my God, he looked hot. Steaming hot. Like he belonged on one of those ridiculous calendars with the firefighters holding puppies that they say are to raise money for charity, but are really just so middle-aged women can stare at toned abs instead of their husbands' beer bellies. Before Noah, I never thought I'd be into tattoos, but I definitely am. There's nothing I love more than tracing my fingers along the lines that weave across his shoulder and chest. Which is exactly what I did. He was still dripping wet, but I couldn't help myself. He was just so damn hot. This is much better, I said, drawing him into a kiss and pressing my body against his. He murmured. I took him by the hand and led him to the bed, where he sat on the edge in a perfect position for me to straddle him. Writing this, I have no idea how I managed to keep myself under control when all I wanted to do was rip the towel off him. But he pushed a strand of hair behind my ear, and in that instant, everything went from hot and steamy to unbelievably tender. That's the only way I can describe it. Our eyes met, and we didn't need to say anything. I could feel and hear everything I needed to know in his heartbeat. I've no idea what I've done to be worthy of having someone as amazing as you in my life, he said, and my heart surged with a whole heap of emotions I didn't think I'd ever feel. I can think of a few things, I said. No. You are incredible. You deserve everything. You deserve the entire world. I promise I won't ever hurt you. I know. I won't ever hurt you, Rin, because I love you. And just like that, the floodgates opened. I love you so much. I never knew it was possible to feel this way. I love you, I said, kissing him with a new passion. I love you too. God, you're perfect, he said, pushing me back a little so that he could study me from a different angle. This is the point when everything changed, and probably not for the reason you're thinking. He was still combing his fingers through my hair when he opened his mouth and produced what was possibly the largest yawn in the history of man. Yup, yawning is a big passion killer. Resting my hand against his cheek, I tipped my head back and laughed. I think you need a nap, I said. No, he tried. I just need to look at you. But you know what it's like when you start yawning. You just can't stop. And he was so damn cute, his face scrunched up like a hamster. Please, Noah, get some rest. I'm not going anywhere. Promise. Promise. He pouted like a scolded toddler, but finally conceded. Maybe just half an hour then, he said. 2 seconds after his head hit the pillow, he was gone. And now I'm here writing this while watching my sleeping boyfriend, who loves me. I'm going to say that again. He loves me. I honestly don't know when I've ever felt like this before. Nothing is going to wreck this mood. Nothing. Blog post 73. Date September 29th. Followers 53,631. Can't you guys give me a break? Seriously, could you not tell how happy I was in the last post? Of course I didn't tell him about Finn right then. Responding to his first declaration of love with, "Hey, that's great, but you know your brother who loved me too? Guess what? I'm going to be seeing him every day." Didn't seem like an appropriate thing to do. That doesn't mean I'm not going to tell him. I'm well aware I have to. But I'll wait until he's had a sleep for a start. Besides, I'm going to talk to Glen about it first. I don't know why, it just feels like something he and I should discuss. The way keeping secrets has utterly screwed up our family. I don't want him to think Noah is more in the loop than he is. So when Glen's back from his lectures, I'll tell him, and then I'll tell Noah. It'll all be sorted by tomorrow. Trust me. Blog post 74. Date, September 29th. Followers, 57,710. Okay, so things aren't quite as sorted as I hoped they'd be. But in my defence, it was not my fault at all. It was Glen's. And I'm not joking. It may have been the first time I've ever said that in 5 years or more. But it was most definitely his fault. And I am still mad at him. As you know, he was at his lectures, and I'd assumed he'd be back around 5. He's put his timetable on the fridge door, so I don't have to worry about where he is. But anxiety can affect anyone, including vampires, apparently. By 6:30, there was still no sign of him. He should be back by now, I said to Noah, straining to hear if Glen was approaching. I wanted to open the curtain and look out into the street, but it's been the first really sunny day we've had in a week, and because I've been indoors all day, I didn't have any sunscreen on. Perhaps you went for a drink with people from his course, Noah replied, quite reasonably. He did that before, didn't he? He wouldn't do that without telling me. Now, those of you who are new to this blog might think I was being somewhat paranoid, and that my little brother being a bit behind time getting back after his first Friday at uni shouldn't be a big deal. But the thing is, the last time Glen was late home, he'd been kidnapped by a psychotic, bloodthirsty vampire who ended up murdering our father. So, maybe I am a little overcautious, but it's definitely justified. A knot formed in the pit of my stomach. Do you mind going out and having a look for me? I asked Noah. I think I should stay here. Now, I bet I know what you're thinking here. That I was catastrophizing. Imagining the worst case scenarios. Police turning up on the doorstep and me having to go and identify his body. That type of thing. You'd not be far wrong. And I just couldn't leave, in case there was the slightest chance of that happening. Besides, when my head's a wreck like that, I find it nearly impossible to focus on anything. Maybe just check the park up by the hospital? Perhaps he's gone for a run, I suggested. Or see if there are any cafes or bars near there where he might have stopped for a drink. I'll check the park and the cafes, and if he's not there, I'll ask around if anyone's seen him, Noah said, kissing me on the head as he squeezed past to grab his phone and wallet. Thank you. You're amazing. I know. When he opened the door, I looked at him, waiting for those words, wondering if he was going to say them again. And he did. I love you, he said, his eyes glinting. I love you too, I replied. And then I was on my own again, worrying about Glen and whether I'd done the right thing asking Noah to go look for him. I never used to be an anxious person, but I swear I'm getting worse. Perhaps it's because I'm doing more with my life, so there are more things to worry about. Or maybe everything I've been through is slowly starting to take its toll. But if anyone has a good excuse to worry, it's got to be me. It's a shame I can't go to the doctor and ask for some meds. They'd want to do blood pressure tests and things like that first, which could only end badly. Noah had been gone for at least 10 minutes, and I was pacing around the house, constantly staring at my phone as if that would make it ring. Suddenly, I heard a car pulling up outside. I rushed to the window to see not a regular car out there, but a sleek, vintage-looking sports model with a grating engine growl. It was so alien that it didn't even cross my mind that it might have anything to do with Glen. A minute later, the door opened. "Glen!" I bolted downstairs, my feet barely touching the carpet. "Where the hell have you been? I was scared shitless. You know we have rules."
"Sorry about that. I may have distracted your brother."
Which was when I looked behind him, and a shudder ran down my spine. She was in a simple outfit of jeans and a long-sleeved white top, a similar outfit to the one I'd worn out a few nights before, although she had paired it with a pair of killer heels and a wide-brimmed hat, not to mention a large handbag with that damn dog sitting inside. It started barking the instant it saw me.
"Quiet, Electra!"
Kalina snapped, before flashing me a perfect smile.
"Glen and Merrewyn don't want to hear all that."
"I didn't think we'd see you again," I said, my voice as cold as ice. I was blocking the doorway, with no intention of inviting her in. But Glen put his hands on my waist and shifted me to one side. "Kalina's my second-year buddy," he said, kicking off his shoes into the hall. "How insane is that?" "Totally insane," I said, locking my eyes with hers. But no matter how steely I thought my glare was, she held it with an impressive one of her own. "I assumed you were a new student too, as the university was sorting out accommodation for you," I said.
"I transferred here," she replied. "I actually spent my first year in Paris, but you know how life is. Sometimes it just throws you the odd curveball."
"Paris," I said, trying to sound as disinterested as possible. "I'm amazed the curriculum just allows for you to swap places like that."
"In medicine, you think the French have different anatomies?"
She smirked, then offered a high-pitched laugh. If I hadn't wanted to hit her before, I sure as hell did then, and her being a med student made total sense, given what I'd seen 3 nights before down that alley. Obviously, she had connections and was selling stuff out on the street. Evil. Pure evil. As is habit with me, while we talked, I was trying to read as many signals for her as I could. But it was difficult. Her crazy-looking dog would not stop barking at me, and it had an even crazier heartbeat that must have been going at over 200 per minute. She'd also left her car running noisily, polluting the atmosphere more with every passing second. What with that, and the strong pong of her perfume, the mutt she held so close to her chest, her own natural smell was masked. All in all, I couldn't get enough to tell if she was lying or not.
"Well,"
she said, throwing me a perfect smile that made me want to vomit,
"I should be going. People to see, essays to write. Catch you next week, Glennie?"
"Yeah, of course."
"Just give me a bell if you want a lift."
And with that, she sashayed back to her car, leaving me to give Glen a fucking bollocking. "You cannot hang around with her." The words were out of my mouth before she'd even driven away. Glen seemed to know they were coming because he didn't show the slightest bit of surprise and just shrugged as he passed me and went into the kitchen. "Did you hear what I said, Glennie? And what the hell was all that about anyway?" "It's called being friendly." "Does she know you're gay?" "You think I can't be friends with an attractive woman because I'm gay? Is there a rule on that somewhere?" It's a good thing that my bones have strengthened since I became a vampire, because I swear I was grinding my teeth so bloody hard I would have reached the gum line had I still been human. "You didn't message me. You didn't call. I've sent Noah out looking for you." For the first time, his eyes flashed with guilt. I'm sorry about that. Really, I am. I just lost track of time, that's all. I was on my way back and Kalina drove past and offered me a lift. We ended up heading to a coffee shop and chatting about the course. I told you, she's my buddy. She's who the university assigned to be the person in the second year I go to if I have any problems. And you don't think that's a bit suspicious? Why? Because it just is. She turned up at our house knowing all about photosensitivity. And now she's your buddy? Her cousin's problem is the reason she's studying medicine, he replied. She's a nice person, Rin. She was so apologetic about the whole house mix-up thing. Honestly, she said they rang her almost as soon as she'd left here. But she didn't want to disturb us again. And she's given me back the money for the hotel. At this point, I huffed, unable to offer a suitable reply. I don't know what you've got to be in your bonnet about here. Kalina is great. Really great. She's the one who organised the social on Tuesday night. I'm lucky to be budded with her. She's already handed me loads of her notes from last year. Besides, this is what we're meant to be doing, isn't it? Making friends? He seemed so happy. And the last thing I wanted to do was burst his bubble, but the pin was already poised. Seemed a waste not to use it. Besides, it would hurt less in the long run. Like ripping off a plaster really quickly. She's a drug dealer, I said, and waited for the shock to hit him and for Glen to realise that I, his big sister, was actually saving him from making a terrible mistake. But instead, he started laughing so hard that he ended up clutching his stomach. You're joking, he said, managing to get his breathing back under control. Have you seen the size of her? She's barely 5 feet tall. So you're saying that short people can't be drug dealers? Sizist, are we? He rolled his eyes. I'm not making this up, Glen. I saw her at it in an alley just before I bumped into you that night. It was definitely her. Look, I don't know what's wrong with you, Rin, Glen said, suddenly serious. I really don't. But you're wrong. Kalina was still on the dance floor when I left to go outside for some fresh air. I was getting melancholy thinking about Joe, and you may not believe this, but I actually find it damn tough being out, pretending to be normal. She offered to come with me, but I told her I needed some time alone. So, unless you can explain how she had time to get downstairs from the 3rd floor of a club and out through some back exit to start selling drugs, and all before I bumped into you, then you need to let this go. I didn't bother replying. He was obviously going to defend Kalina to the hilt, despite only just meeting her. But I know what you're thinking, because how the hell could you not see it as well? To anyone with half a brain cell who knows the way the world really works, it's glaringly obvious. Kalina is a fucking vampire. You've been listening to the latest instalment of Love Bites, Book 2 in the Bloodsuckers blog trilogy. Written by Ella Stone, narrated by Hannah Lynn, and produced by Papercat Publishing.